Hey guys, I'm Mike and I make stuff. And this time, I made a mistake.
I fix them right up, and I make them better. Oh.
Now, I can tell you that I have got a lot of feedback from this community, and a lot of it has been supportive. A lot of it has been asking questions, inspiring me to move forward, and I can't be more thankful. I could not have ever imagined that this community would embrace me the way they did. But every once in a while, somebody keeps you in check. So every once in a while I get some feedback, like I said, and this time I got something quite interesting and very eye-opening from an individual that I've been talking with for a while. They've been needing a little bit of help. They want to get into woodworking. They want to start their journey of making things there, but their finances are really restricted. They got a very, very small budget. So they said, listen, I've got a very small space. Where can I get started? And I said, well, you probably wouldn't go wrong getting a basic set of chisels. You can get a lot of things done in woodworking starting there. So apparently he did that. Then he messaged me again and he said, well, I got these chisels and they're from the Hobo Freight and they have these wooden handles. And every time I tap on the end of it, I think it's gonna crack. Oh, well, that makes sense. I said, you need a mallet. Okay, great. Well, how am I going to make a mallet? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. You just go find a large chunk of wood. Any good solid piece of wood would do. Mortise a hole through the center. We'll drive a handle through it. And you got yourself a basic rudimentary wood mallet. Just basically a wooden hammer is what you're looking for. And after that, it was silent for a while. But then I got this message yesterday. And I wanted you guys to see it, so I'm going to give him some room. Right there. Our dear friend says, and I quote, "Hey, quote, Mike is making stuff," end quote. "I had to send you a message to let you know that I watched your videos, and there's one thing I've learned so far. You're an idiot. You got me fired up to do some woodworking. I didn't try because I didn't have a lot of money, and I finally went and bought some chisels. Then I realized I can't use the chisels because my claw hammer is going to shatter the handles. So I messaged you the other day and you told me to make a mallet. Then you told me to find a big block of wood, chisel a hole through the middle of it, and stick a handle through it. Except you forgot one thing. How do I chisel a hole through the middle? Did you want me to hit the chisel with my damn head? Dumbass." Well, shit. Right, so I understand that I need to show them how to make a mallet without actually needing a mallet, which kind of makes sense. So, making a mallet without needing a mallet, it's kind of a valid thing. Tough to make something that you need if what you need is the thing that you need in order to make the thing you need. Nonetheless, I got some pieces of pallet wood. We're going to bang together a very simple mallet. I may clean it up a little bit for my own purposes, and I might use some tools that you may not have in your shop because you're just a guy with a set of chisels. We'll do our best to help you out and at least get you to a point where you can make some mortises. But I'm going to go one better. I'm not only going to show you how to make a mallet. I know that if you're going to follow one of these guys that are really good at making mortises and really good at that kind of joinery, they usually don't use a pencil, they use a marking knife. So we're going to make one of those too. And at the end of the day, we'll test out what I do and we'll see how well it works. Hang in there. All right, guys, back to the workbench. I know you guys get tired of looking out of my gut, but this is the best way to show you what I'm doing. We're going to make a pallet out of what we got. And we're going to make a marking knife. So here's what we're going to do. I found myself a pallet runner. Nice, tough. This is oak. And I found a slat that came off of a pallet. This should be more than enough for us to be able to make a mallet, at least one that'll get us going and start banging on a chisel. So the first thing we need to do is make a decision about how big our mallet is going to be. I'm taking into consideration on this one, I've got a big check that runs right down this right here. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to use about that much of this. So I'm going to start by cutting that off. Again, to talk to the people with the basic tools or minimal resources, you can cut this with a handsaw, you can cut this with a jigsaw, But I'm going to use the miter saw real quick. I'll be right back with you. Well, once again, I figured out I'm an idiot. This board that I originally picked just isn't going to work, and I'll show you guys why. That way you can avoid this happening for you. Remember I talked about that big check on this end? Well, it comes right about to here, and then right here, I've got a big gnarly knot that's going to be all kinds of havoc for me to try to contend with. This guy's going to have to sit on the bench. We'll have to find something else. What I found instead was a 2x4 that apparently they decided to cut off the very edge of the tree and call it close enough. But that's actually going to work to our advantage. I'll show you what I mean here in a minute. I cut a couple pieces the same size. That'll be my mallet head. This is going to end up being my handle. I'll show you how we end up doing this. What we're going to have to do is we're going to fashion ourselves a handle. I think, well, our friend that sent me the message said he has a claw hammer, so I'm going to measure that way. I'm going to use my claw hammer as a starting point, and I realize that this head is going to be a whole lot lighter than this one, so I don't need that much handle, and I'm going to be doing a lot more gentle work with it. I don't have a marking gauge yet, so I'm going to have to resort to a pencil for a second. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this right here, and I'm just going to trace my hammer. And that looks like a winner to me. I'm going to cut that out, and I'm going to save the rest of this because I'm going to need it to finish out my mallet head. Give me just a second, I'm going to cut this out. I'll do it with the bandsaw, but again, as I showed you in the last video that I had, you'll be able to do it with your scroll saw, with a hand saw, with a jigsaw. There's 1,000 ways to do it. Be right back after I cut this out. Alright, so we cut us out a handle. As you can see, I didn't do anything to try to make it symmetrical or pretty. That really doesn't matter. We're looking for function right now. We've got our two mallet heads. We've got us a handle. What we need now is a couple of spacers, and that'll make sense in just a second. Alright, so we got the handle cut out. As you can see, I did not try to make this thing pretty. I wanted you to see that it's only as pretty as you want it to be. It doesn't have to be in order to function. That being said, we found another piece of wood at the same thickness as our handle. We're going to use this to make the spacers that we need. That'll make sense in just a second. I'm going to set one side of my mallet head here. I'm going to trace around this guy. And then I'm going to trace my handle right in the middle of it. About as wonky as it could get. I'm going to center it a little better. So now I'm going to need this piece and this piece. This will be waste. And I'll cut all of this out. In a second, you'll see how easy this is. It's a breeze. And just like that, got a head, got a handle. Where's this go? Is that it? That looks like a winner. You get what I mean. By the time we get done with this, these spacers will act as the center portion of our mallet, and we'll at least be able to bang on something for a little while. Oops. Behold, one quick and dirty mallet. Was this video a video to teach you how to make a mallet? Yes and no. More importantly, I challenged myself. I wanted to get this done as quick as possible, and I timed it 6 minutes and 37 seconds, and we got us a mallet. I banged it together out of what I had. I even drove a couple of screws just to hold this thing together so that I could put it to work. But more importantly, I wanted to start off by saying thank you. Thank you to the fellow that sent me that comment. I am thrilled to hear that my videos are getting you fired up into doing something to make things. That's one of the biggest takeaways I'm taking from this. And that's the kind of spark that I hope to ignite in people. You were absolutely right to call out the missing step in the suggestions for a mallet. I apologize to you for the oversight. Sometimes the steps in my head don't clearly translate into what I end up putting in the videos. So I appreciate you pointing it out and just making note of the practical challenge that comes from the fact that you need a mallet but you don't have one. These are challenges that you're going to run into with making things all the time, especially if you're having to make do with what you have. If times are tough, if finances are tight, if something happens in the world and you have to make do with what's in front of you, sometimes you're going to encounter things like this. So this is a great moment to put that mindset into use. I'm really proud of the fact that you were able to identify the fact that you're going to need a mallet in order to keep going. You're already thinking like a woodworker. That's a fantastic set of progress for you. I really appreciate you keeping me on my toes, calling me out. But now that you got those chisels, you've seen me bang together a mallet. This thing admittedly is uglier than a naked sin. But let's find out if it'll do the trick. I believe this is the set of chisels that you got from down at the Hobo Freight. I can see what you're talking about. You got that wooden tip down there. You don't want to hit that with a metal hammer. Looks like we can chisel into there just fine. I think we got a winner. So guys, I know that was a bit of an odd video, and I'm still new to this YouTube thing, but I get it now. So many people talk about the kind of feedback that you may get from some people sometimes. And I don't want this to sound like I took that in a negative way. I really do thank the person that sent me that. It's going to help me out, and it's going to make me better at what I do. As a matter of fact, I'm going to keep our boogered up mallet here, and I'm going to use it for as long as it holds up as a reminder to me of how I could be better. The booger mallet is staying here in the shop. If you made it this far in the video, comment hashtag booger mallet. Let me know. And thanks again. Really. You ain't doing nothing but making me better. Appreciate you. Now, with that being said, I understand that if you're going to do chisel work, well, I think we've covered sufficiently. You're going to need a mallet. But you're going to need other things in order to be able to do it well. And I'm going to make the presumption that you have a square. If you don't, let me know and I'll show you how to make one. They're pretty simple to do. There's a few people that make videos on how to make a square. There's not very many, but you can get it done and I can show you how. But I'm going to make the assumption that you have a square. All right, if you're going to do any kind of accurate woodworking, you're going to want a decent marking device, a decent marking tool. And we all start with a pencil. But eventually you get to a point of precision where a pencil is just too big and it just doesn't make sense. So you move to something called a marking knife. Now, a marking knife can be as simple as something like a box blade. This is a good start, but it's not the best option. This blade is very thin and very flexible. And because of that, if it has the opportunity to bend itself to cut through softer wood rather than harder wood, it will completely deviate off path and it will take the path of least resistance. So this is a good option, but not the best. So rather than just sticking with a box blade, we're going to do something a little bit more in depth. We're going to get something a little bit more robust. I found a piece of metal that came out of a file cabinet. They hang the folders on this little bar inside the drawer. I'll see if I can find a way to get you guys a picture so you can see. I'm going to turn this into my marking knife. Now again, I'm going to preface, I can make a big fancy handle for this, and I probably will when it's all said and done. But I want to show you that this is all I need. With a little bit of shaping, I got a great marking knife. Alright, so I went to go to the shaping. I did it on a bench grinder. I did it on a belt and disc sander. You can do it with a hand file. It's really easy to get done. What you're looking for is to get yourself a point. Kind of like that guy right there. Once you got those angles established, then we can work on getting you some good bevels and a nice sharp back so that you'll be able to make some good clean marking cuts with this. Let's get started. So just like when we talked about sharpening the blade on your hand plane, the same premise works for any sharpening that you're going to do with any of these hand tools, whether it be a marking gauge, whether it be one of your chisels. The same things are going to apply for the same things that we did with the hand plane. Link in the description, I did a whole live video about it. And the first thing we're going to need in order to do this is we're going to need a flat surface, which we don't have. Let's go ahead and make that happen. If there's anything that knockdown furniture is, unless it's been wet, it's flat. So we'll be able to put this to use. Next, we need to get a little bit flatter. This will be a good backing for what we're going to do next, which is to get ourselves a piece of glass. That'll be super flat, and we can attach some abrasive there and get working on our bevels and edges. Let's get us some nice smooth edges using our glass cutting tools. I did a video on that too. I'll put the link in the description for that as well. this plate to the edge of this board, and I screwed this board to the edge of my bench so that I had room to work on the flat face on the back, which is our next operation. Got the back just about done. Let's go. Very nice. Now I'm going to step over to the grinder. I'm going to work the primary bevels and get them at least roughly put in, and I can start working on getting those situated so we can flip over and use our fine grit. We got our bevels set in here. We're pretty much ready to get started on fine tuning these. I'm going to set this into my plain blade sharpener, which is a bit different than normal. But it is a tool that I need at this moment because it establishes a bevel that I can remain consistent with as I use this. So I've plugged it in there so that you can see the tip of one of my bevels is parallel with my guide. I'm going to oil up the stone, start working on that bevel. I just established myself a couple of bevels, flat back. I think we're ready to flip the glass. That, my friends, is a marking knife. Here's the backing from the sandpaper. I think it cuts. I think it cuts pretty good. All right, y'all. I don't have any fancy projects going on right now, but I wanted to show you how well this marking knife is going to work. I took a piece of pallet wood and I prettied up one end of it, sanded it and planed it down, squared it up so we can work on a piece of fine furniture. Hashtag my bench ain't pretty. All right, let me get you in a little closer so you can see. Okay, the reason for this design is that we've got two bevels in a V shape and a flat back. The flat back is important for this reason. when I'm marking out a mortise or any other joinery, the first advantage of a marking knife is that that edge is going to be 10 times more accurate than a pencil's ever going to get. So let's say that I want to measure, let's measure 4 inches. So I'll set my square to 5 and I'm going to mark it 1. Now, this is so finely ground that if you see that, I can literally bury it inside the lines on the ruler. So I can make a mark with just a slight press and know that that right there is at 4 inches. The reason that it's flat on this side and it has 2 edges is because if I'm going to do it this way, I now register this side of the blade up against my square. And I make my mark. First with light passes, and a little bit heavier. And my finger was dirty, so I got a little smudge in there, but maybe that'll help you see it better. There you go. Now the reason it has 2 edges is that if I'm coming from this side, I can flip my blade and I'm still pulling with the knife instead of trying to push a point in. Knife in my measurement, slide my square to it. And I got another line, dead accurate, right where I need it to be. So there you have it, guys. A pretty minimalist mallet, hashtag bugger mallet, and an equally minimalist marking knife. I think that this video covered a lot of lessons that we could all learn. Number one, I should be more diligent in understanding that not everybody's going to be able to understand the journey the same way I do. And I need to double back and make sure that I'm being thorough with what I'm telling you, and I'm sorry. The second thing that I think is a good takeaway from this is that tools or no tools, there's always a way. And I think that that is indicative of the spirit of creativity and artisan mindset. That is such a beautiful part of making things. I think some of the best skill sets that we get taught are improvising, problem solving, circumnavigating obstacles to get to a solution that we can work with. Today was a pair of really good examples. I love how this marking knife came out. Let me know what you think this handle ought to look like. I think I want to dress this thing up and make it pretty. But more importantly, I think what this video taught me was that, well, in the words of some of the people I knew when I was a kid, you can make it rain silver dollars on the roof and they'll complain about the noise it's making. Not everybody's going to like what I do. I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And that's okay. I need to accept that. But I don't need to ignore their feedback, because what they give me is one of the greatest gifts I can get. Ways to get better. And that's what this whole channel is about, right? Learning. Catch you in the next one, guys. Oh. And now that you see me make a mallet, Mr. DM, you can plant both lips right on my...
I fix them right up, and I'm